We've been talking about preparing for this wind and rain storm. One of the things you do is try to make sure storm drains don't have leaves on them, but with all the wind that's coming, that's sort of a Sisyphean task.
Yeah, it makes you feel better. It's kind of hard. Plus, if you see a balloon coming out of the storm drains, you leave those.
This time of year for
yeah,
sure.
You don't just leave that for somebody else to deal with that. Yeah, you do the best you can, you clear it out, but what's going to happen is, to Pat's point, the wind is going to drive some leaves down, and they will get stuck in some of the gutters and whatnot. Either way, got a big area of rain that is set back to the west here. Our first batch of moderate stuff has moved into York County and just moving into Cumberland County and Portland. You can see it's drifting in this direction. And so this is going to give southwestern Maine a bit of a head start on the real rain tonight. A lot of us will wait until after midnight, though, to get in on the heavier bands of precipitation. So there's our first batch coming through. It kind of pulls back towards the front, though, later this evening, and then sets up and moves from west to east throughout tonight. So again, a lot of us, it'll be after midnight. Once it starts raining, though, it will be heavy stuff. There'll be some real downpours in there and some gusty winds that we'll talk more about in a second. Now, down East Maine, it's possible you'll wake up tomorrow and there really won't have been any rain or very little rain so far, but that comes in middle of the day into the afternoon as this whole front shifts to the east. And so it's raining through the morning commute over western and central Maine, and then more like the afternoon into the evening over down East Maine. And whether it's Washington County or Hancock County, there's going to be a band of heavy rain that's kind of oscillating over the mid-coast through tomorrow night, and that will give us another bullseye of heavy rain before this whole thing moves out on Saturday morning. And actually, the weekend looks good. We just don't have much time to talk about that, but it's going to be nice after this storm comes through. So what about winds? We've talked the last few days about how I thought the winds will be right on the edge, 45 miles an hour. We can do that even with leaves on the trees and have only scattered power outages. We kick up to 50, 55, we might have some more problems. I think 45 is still a good number. East-southeast wind, bullseye will be along the coast. Secondary bullseye for strongest winds will actually be in the high terrain. That has to do with the fact that the winds are really strong aloft, and not all of that's going to get down to the surface, but in the case of the mountains, they're already up there, so they'll see strong winds too. And the strongest winds will be early tomorrow morning through the middle of the day for most of us. And over down East Maine, it will probably be the afternoon where the winds will be their strongest at about 40 to 45 miles an hour. Yesterday, we had some wild model swings on how much rain we're going to get. Today, luckily, this makes sense. We have two bullseyes, one over western Maine, and I would argue this should extend down into Portland, of 3 to 5 inches of rain. Then we've got a gap in between where the front moves through relatively quickly. We're looking at probably 1.5 to 3 inches of rain, and then back to another area of 3 to 5 over down East Maine where that bullseye sets up. So those areas obviously will have a chance for some flooding. It's just a matter of how much flooding are we talking about? Is it just kind of nuisance stuff? Someone's basement's unhappy, or are we talking about something more substantial? So we'll watch those bands tonight and tomorrow and see where they set up. Again, we do clear out by midday Saturday. It looks nice Saturday afternoon. Sunday looks good too, into the mid-60s. And again, I don't think we're going to defoliate all the trees. We will lose some leaves. There'll still be foliage after this storm, so don't worry about that.
And you brought it up at 5:30, but it's worth mentioning, if you have a generator, maybe give it a test, make sure it's ready to go.
Yeah,
just in case.
Chances are it'll be the early morning hours tomorrow, and you don't want to be out there fixing it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Keith.